Hello, my name is Rachel Adams. I'm a doula, a yoga instructor, and a realtor, and I love to help families with transitions. So today on my home birth podcast, I have Carmen. Take it away, Carmen. Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Carmen Marascalco. I am a mother of two and a small business owner in the Hampton Roads area. I own the Blissful Mama, which was created and birthed after having my own children, and I saw I saw the need for more support for mommies as they transition from single woman to motherhood.
Great. So let's talk about your experience through birth and everything like that. So let's start with pregnancy. So your first pregnancy.
My first one, that would be August Benjamin. My husband at the time, he and I had just moved to Denver, Colorado, and we had been there for 3 or 4 months, and we'd gotten married earlier that year, and we both decided that we felt ready. I almost felt like I had a little spirit around me, kind of tapping me on the shoulder, saying that they wanted to come be with us. So we honestly know when he was conceived. It was very easy to get pregnant, which I thank my lucky stars for. And also, from the beginning, I guess, honestly, it was the simpler of the two pregnancies. It was the more uneventful one. And it really was just more or less, I knew we were trying. So I was looking for the signs. It wasn't like anything took me by surprise. In the beginning, a little bit of, it was more food aversions. It wasn't even cravings. It was more food aversions. And honestly, I'm trying to think of what some of them were. That's so funny. There's some things I'm just like, I don't even have in my memory bank anymore, but it was more.
How long ago was it?
He's almost 9. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, we're talking a little bit of time here. And if I asked his dad, he could probably help me remember some of them. But living in Denver, and we lived in a studio apartment. So for me, it was more or less, I knew that we needed to make changes on the outside to welcome a new life into our world. So yeah, it was a pretty uneventful pregnancy. I felt very blessed because I was working at a salon at the time. I wasn't doing massage at that time. And the owner was a licensed doula. And I didn't know that until I told her I was pregnant. And she shared that with me. And I really didn't know what a doula was. I didn't know much about midwives. I knew midwives used to help deliver babies way back in the day. I didn't know it was a thing of recent times. And, she asked me like where we were going to have the baby. So we started looking at local birthing centers, and there was a beautiful birthing center in Denver. And I felt so lucky because it had people coming from the surrounding states just to have their baby there. So we go to the birthing center, and they allowed you to have water births. I was very interested in having a water birth. I love water. Water's always been very healing for me and very supportive. And so we go to our appointment. It was wonderful. We got to hear his heartbeat, sound like a little train. And they said, your baby sounds wonderful. You're in great shape. You seem like you're going to have a great pregnancy. However, you can't have your baby here. But you could have your baby at home. And I was like, what does this mean? I was so confused. And they said that my BMI, my body mass index, was too low of a number for their state regulations to be able to have moms have babies in their facility. So I was a home birth, whatever. Nope, not going to happen. So I went to my husband. I was like, I guess we're going to have to look at hospitals. I go to work. She asked me how it went. I told her the story, and she was like, you would be amazing at a home birth, Carmen. Let me tell you about this. So she had her first delivery. Her first baby was born in a hospital. She shared that experience. And it was a difficult experience for her and her baby and her husband. And then after that, when she got pregnant with her second, she said, I'm going to have a home birth. And she had a beautiful home birth experience. It felt like it was very healing in comparison to what happened with her first. And she said, if you decide to have a home birth, I'll be your doula. So we went and interviewed the woman that helped her with her home birth and her midwife. And we watched a couple of documentaries, The Business of Being Born and Born in America. And after watching those, both my husband and I just knew instantly, like, we're destined to have a home birth. We can do this. And for him, he said, you're the one that's birthing our child. Like, I'm showing up for you. You decide really what feels right for you. So that was a really big decision, because a fun fact about me is that I come from a very large family of doctors and nurses. And my grandfather actually delivered over 10,000 babies in the Delta of Mississippi during his career. So to go to my family now and share this news that we are excited about, and we're so pumped up, and I'm like, I can do this. Yeah, I have all the confidence, right? I am very in tune with my body. I danced when I was younger. I went to massage school at a young age, very familiar with the anatomy and how the body can heal itself and how it really is constantly there taking care of us and we don't even realize it. So I was like, I have confidence in my body knowing what I know. And it was met with some fears, of course, naturally, loving fears. But from like, no matter what came our way, we knew in our hearts that this is the way we wanted to bring our baby into the world. And so it unfolded from there. And do you want me to keep telling you like the whole
Of
story?
course.
Okay.
I have a similar experience as well. I come from a family of labor and delivery nurses.
Okay. Yeah, this was one thing that we did not share with my grandfather, that I was having a home birth. But the rest of the family knew. But the funny thing is, like, you know, they all went Western medicine and I decided to study Eastern medicine. So it kind of just, everybody was like, oh, this makes sense for Carmen, you know, that she wants to do this. One of the most encouraging resources I had was Ina May Gaskins' book, Guide to Childbirth. And I just fell in love with it all, the stories. And I realized we women, when we come in and we get to have the body of a woman and we choose motherhood, or motherhood chooses us, it is, I think, one of the greatest gifts that we will ever get to experience. Obviously many, many layers to that, but above all, it's an honor, right? Like, we are the ones that are bringing life. We are that vessel. We are the channel for that life, for a new life to come into this world. And I knew with my meditation practice, my yoga practice, and breathwork practice, that it was something to create the most sacred and safe container around. And the only way I felt like I could do that was by doing it at home with my husband.
Wonderful. That's where you felt safe and comfortable.
Confident, you know, like, it was also, I mean, a little bit of his control, right? I felt more in control in that space, but it was more or less, it was the comfort, right? Like, you felt like you create your nest and you know that I was going to have all the things I needed there. And of course, people's big thing is like, well, what if emergency happens? Well, these midwives, I mean, I remember when my midwife got there and the doula, and their entire living room was covered with all of their equipment and all of the things that they need in case this happens or that happens or that happens. So they are very well equipped. And, you know, the beautiful piece to the home birth is that for the first one, this was a healing piece, I think, for my family. For the first one, my mother got to be there for the whole thing. And she had 6 babies. All right. And she had them vaginally, and I'm her last one, and I was born in 84. So, you know, I loved having her there, but I think it also showed her another way to bring a life into the world, because she had never been to a home birth or been around that. It was just hospital births, which she, you know, she had really wonderful birthing experiences. So, I really loved having that piece, right? Like, even it's like she was there to hold me, and literally I would be having contractions holding on to her as I'm stepping into that world with her as a mother. So it was very sacred and healing and special, in many, many ways.
That sounds very special to have that type of support.
Yeah. It was. And then I told my dad, I said, if I have another one, you have to promise you're going to be at the home birth. So I twisted his arm a little bit and he was there for the second birth. And I have some funny things to tell you about that one.
Great. So let's start with the first one.
Yeah.
How's early labor for you?
Okay. So I remember midnight on the dot, I went into labor because I felt that first pow contraction, and I was like, that was different. I know something's happening. And so unfortunately I had stayed up late watching a movie. So I was not very well rested. But early labor it was that consistent every 15 minutes. At one point I knew how to move my body because of my yoga background, dance background, massage background. So I was grabbing pillows. I was on, trying to support myself up on hands and knees as much as I could. And I would doze off a little bit and come back. Early labor, pre-labor lasted from, I would say it was about midnight until the next midnight he was born on Labor Day. It was actually midnight that Monday, and he was born that night at 11 p.m. But pre-labor stopped and went into active around 5:30. So I think it was about 18 hours. And then when active, and I did all of that at home, just with my mom and my husband, moving around, laying down when I could, just doing that dance. And that was the other thing, is I needed that level of freedom. If I want to step out on my balcony and feel the sunshine on me while these contractions are happening, or I need to go close myself off in my room and have dark, cold, quiet, and I just was able to flow through it all. And then when active labor started, my mucus plug came out, and I, checked in with my midwives. They came right over, and whenever they got there, we got the tub filled up, and I was so happy to be in that birthing tub. And I was in there from 5:30 until I pushed him out at 11:11. So
Awesome.
maybe 6:00 I got in. Yeah.
So any other comfort techniques that you used? When did you call your doula?
I called my doula, I would say, I think she came over around the same time. She got there the same time as the midwife. A lot of it was, I remember through my breath practice and through my breath training, about really it's kind of tricky. You step back and let your body breathe. And so at moments when it wants to hold it, don't resist the holding. And then when it wants to really let it go, just let that exhale go, or let your body take that nice deep full inhale. At times, and when the waves were rushing over, I am very connected to the ocean. We had just moved to Denver from Virginia Beach, which we now live in again. So I remember thinking about the ocean waves, and I didn't have any music playing. We just had soft lighting for most of it. The breath was what carried me through it. And I remember so many times, I did my prenatal yoga training when I was pregnant. And so I was pulling on that knowledge too, the horse's bray breath, and remembering to just relax the pelvic floor, and just tune into that. The most comforting thing that somebody else did for me was the doula did hip compressions. I was on hands and knees in the birthing tub, and those were my lifesavers. And I tell every mommy that, go look up hip compressions, show your husband the video, start practicing. It can really help you through that transition piece.
Awesome. If anyone doesn't know what the horse breathing is, it's when you relax your lips and you just go, you're really relaxing into it. That's another great breathing technique.
Right.
But I love how you mentioned the waves, because I play wave sounds in my yoga classes, and I think those are really calming, but also I think it's a great metaphor for labor as well. The contractions come and they pull you in, and then they kind of come back a little bit, and you have a little bit of a rest. So that's important as well.
Yeah, I actually incorporate that. I do a guided meditation and breath thing or practice whenever I'm doing induction massage, because mommies are right there at that threshold of any moment baby's coming or baby's labor is going to start when they come for the induction. So when I'm holding the pressure points for that, I talk to them about envisioning that you inhale and you feel the breath get full in the chest, and that's the top of the wave cresting. And you just let it get as full as you can. Don't try to push it. And then on that nice, gentle exhale or strong exhale, that wave crashes and it brings the energy and baby down and out. We're bringing the energy from up to down.
That's a great visualization.
Yeah. And then getting them into that rhythm, and I breathe with them through it. And I tell them, like, remember this, whenever you're in labor, right? The contractions are just a wave, and then they'll relax, and then they'll come in hard and they'll build, and then they'll go. And connecting the breath, the movement of the body, the movement of the contractions, and the visualization of the waves really helps us learn that flow.
Great. So how was your postpartum experience with your first?
So with August, I think it was mild as far as depression goes. I did notice some anxiety. I did have his placenta encapsulated, and I was told that this could help with postpartum anxiety and depression, the baby blues. I had a little bit of tearing, and I did have some stitches. That I wish there was more I could have done to support my pelvic floor. I now know about pelvic floor physical therapists. I didn't know about them before. And so I wish I would have had a resource for that. And that's a huge resource that I tell mommies that are coming through, whether it's your first or your fourth. I highly recommend postnatal if they can link up, and you can even start working with them before you have baby.
Yes. And that can help with recovery as well. If anyone needs any references, please comment below and I will give you a good reference, at least in my area. I'm in the Chesterfield, Virginia area.
Okay. Yeah. And I know of several in this area. I'm happy to post them in the comments as well. So that's a big thing that I wish I would have had. And it's why I offer it as one of my main resources. Like, please, let's take care of our pelvic floors after we have these babies. And it will save us from a lot of stuff that comes on later on down the road when we're older. So we did decide, there was a part of me, because we were so new to Denver, I didn't feel like I had a true community around me like I once felt like I had here in Hampton Roads. So when he was 3 months old, we decided to move back to Virginia. And when I told my parents, who lived in Mississippi at the time, they actually asked us to come stay in Mississippi for a while because they wanted to have time with their new grandson and with us and just offer that support. My mom, she really knew the sensitivity of like the first couple of years. So we actually moved when he was 3.5 months old. We moved from Colorado to Mississippi, and we were there for almost a year. And then we moved back to Virginia. So I would say one of the things that helped with my postpartum recovery was being able to move in with my parents and have that family support. And so that's another thing that I ask moms that come in is, do you have family here? Do you have community? Do you have support? And if they don't, I try to give them different ways to connect with the moms in the area and make sure that they just don't feel alone, because it can feel really lonely sometimes.
Yes. And don't be afraid to ask for help. That period is so important to have rest. And if you have any other children, to just, have that child care so you can bond with the new baby and everything. So absolutely. Great. Anything else to add, maybe about breastfeeding or anything like that?
As far as breastfeeding went, with August, it was more the uneventful. He latched well, milk came in well. I think that I also was told that the encapsulation of the placenta can help with the milk coming in. So I feel like I went through that phase very smoothly. And I don't know if it was the encapsulation or not, but whatever it was, I went through that smoothly. It was Elliot's story where there was more bumps in the road and a few more hurdles to get over. So
So
I
no
did
tongue ties or anything. That's becoming more common nowadays.
not with him, with my second tongue tie, lip tie, and I'll tell you about that. One last note that I wanted to share was that for me, before having kids, I'm an extrovert and I'm a very social person. And so when I was pregnant, I knew that I would be spending more time by myself and I wanted to feel a level of creativity and production. And so I took knitting lessons. And then when I was breastfeeding or at home with August, and he was napping or right before bed. So it was like I had a very tangible, creative, small project that I got to work with. And I feel that it most definitely helped with levels of anxiety and depression. And it was just a really great resource and tool that I was able to use. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It's almost like I want to invite moms to, when you know that you are going to be homebound essentially with a new baby, to make sure that you pull in things that are special to you. And maybe there'll be new things, but to kind of prepare yourself so that you're not just stuck in that space and feel this big void, if that makes any sense.
That's a great idea. And you feel productive and you're making things potentially for your baby or for yourself. That's nice and comfy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. My grandmother taught me how to crochet, so I love to do that.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Great. So we'll move on to your second pregnancy.
Okay. So this was Elliot James. We had moved back to Norfolk at this point. I will say, whenever we decided to start trying, I did tell my husband that I would consider having a hospital birth. I'm like, I wonder what that experience would be like, because I also remember the intensity of the home birth. But once we did find out we were pregnant, I instantly was like, yeah, I'm going to have another home birth. So
and at this point, you were in Virginia Beach?
In Virginia, yes, we were living in Norfolk, which is right next to Virginia Beach. So in the Hampton Roads area, I started looking up home birth support groups, and there's an amazing one, and there's a great page, Hampton Roads Home Birth Support Group, I think is what it's called.
Yes.
And I went in there and started asking questions. One of my good mommy friends who wanted to have a home birth, and she ended up having 2 hospital births, she told me about that group. So when I joined that group, put feelers out there, and I was blown away at this beautiful community. And Elliot's now 5. And so it's grown immensely.
And that's how we met. That's how we connected.
That's how we met. Exactly. So Chelsea and Renee, they are cousins. I hired Renee Cicero with Ohana Home Birth, and Chelsea was studying under her to become a midwife. And so I got the package deal, and it was wonderful. They are very special women to me. So that pregnancy, I felt very sick a lot. And so one of the tricks that they gave me was to set a timer every 2 hours, put some source of protein in my body, stay in front of the hunger. And a lot of it is, at this point, I'm chasing a 3.5-year-old, and I'm trying to take care of my body and, do stuff for the house, and
a little snack for you, a little snack for him.
Exactly. So keeping up with all that. So I did find myself a lot getting to that hungry stage, and then it was really rough. So once I kind of got into a groove with that, and I got iron supplement and some other things worked out with my nutrition piece, I did start to feel better. I started running after I had August, and I did run a decent amount throughout my pregnancy with Elliot. So I was staying strong. I was actually stronger physically with that pregnancy than I feel like I was with August. And August, I want to say, he came out 5 pounds, 11 ounces. He was the tiniest little peanut. And for some reason, I knew this second baby was not going to be that small. So Elliot was a little bit bigger, and there was definitely points where I just felt more uncomfortable in my body, and it was getting dressed was very, very stressful and exhausting and emotional and things like that. There were a lot of more emotions, I feel like, floating around, trying to figure out how to juggle all of the pieces and bring in a new life into that. But we hired them. We also decided to hire a birth photographer, which I didn't do for my first one. And I did that really because there weren't a lot of pictures taken during my first delivery. And I wish I wanted more, So we hired a birth photographer, Renee. Renee and Chelsea came over. Okay, so let me back up actually. So this one decided to go into labor at midnight, pretty much on the dot as well. Both my boys decided to do that. And I remember that big surge too. A couple of days before that, I think we determined that I had possibly a tear higher up, and there was a slow leak just for a couple of days, because there was a couple of days where I questioned whether or not I peed myself. And looking back, I definitely think it was fluid. So he initiated labor at midnight, and the idea that the second one comes in half the time as the first was accurate for me. So he was delivered before noon. So pre-labor was from midnight until 7-ish. And I think around 3:30 is when I nudged my husband, was like, okay, you got to go get this ready now. We all thought he was going to come a few days later. In a lot of ways, we kind of weren't prepared. We were just like, oh, we got time, but we didn't. So he had to move the dining room table and set up the birthing tub. And Renee got there around 7-ish when active labor was kicking in. Renee and Chelsea did. And the funny story is, Renee told me, go get Sonic ice, get a huge bag of the Sonic ice. It's the best ice to chew on when you're in labor. So the week before, we had already gotten the Sonic ice. It was in this freezer upstairs in the apartment my parents were staying in. But when Zach went to go get the ice, I told him, I'm ready for the ice, please go get it. He goes up there and there's no ice in the freezer. And he comes running down. He's like, it's not up there. And I was like, I put it up there. I know it's up there. So I go ask my dad. My dad gets up, and this is, mind you, 5:30 in the morning. And he's like, where's the ice? And my dad was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was y'all's. I just put it in the sink and let it thaw out. I needed the freezer space. So I didn't have my Sonic ice. My dad feels awful. His daughter's in labor. And he took the ice. He melted the ice. So he looked up. Sonic wasn't opening until 7:30 or 8. I don't know when they opened. So he ran to 7-Eleven, got a bag of ice. And while they were filling up my birthing tub, my dad was in the kitchen with a hammer smashing up ice so that I could have some ice. So that was a little side funny story. And he still feels awful for it, but I'm like, it's what happens at a home birth, right? You got to roll with it. But once I got into the water, labor definitely progressed quickly. And one of the cool things that our photographer showed us was that purple line that comes up the low back, right at the top of, your butt crack.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts there, and as you're dilating, the purple line gets longer. And she has pictures of it that were so fascinating. And so they were going by that to really see how far along I was dilated, because they don't do the pelvic exams and unless necessary. So pushing started, contractions started heavy, and we weren't really getting anywhere, and we didn't understand why. And so they did the Doppler and realized he was sunny side up. So sweet Chelsea, she's like, you're going to have to get out of the birthing tub. We're going to take you to the bed, and you're going to be on your chest or hands and knees, and Renee is going to do belly sifting. And our birth photographer got a picture of this, and actually it got posted in the Huffington Post that same year, a couple months later, because they did a whole piece about home birth. So
wow, that's
pretty
very
cool.
neat.
Yeah, it's a beautiful picture. I'll try to find it and send it to you. But Renee, they just were so wonderful. I knew that I knew with them there and everybody, you just know, like, I know that whatever comes, somebody is going to be able to, they have the tools to support me. So he came out of the birth canal, rotated, and they said, okay, here or the tub, and you're ready, 10 centimeters, you're ready to go. And I wanted to have him in water. So Renee helped me back, and there's actually a stunning picture of me holding on to her and her holding on to me, and it's just from our waist to our shoulder, I believe, and you can see my pregnant belly, and it was when I was having a contraction right after I got out of the tub, and I'll never forget that moment. It was really special. So I get back in the birthing pool, and at this point I'm leaning back, and I had August on hands and knees. So his dad caught him from behind me. And then, so this was a different position for me. And I was just bearing down. I was trying so hard to get him out. And Renee is gently, or not Renee, Chelsea was gently pushing on my belly, like nudging him down a little bit. And then I just remember this second, Renee reaches over, and then he comes out. And I remember after he was on my chest asking Renee, what was that? And she said his shoulder was caught just a little bit. So, and she caught it right away. So then we have Elliot James, and he was born at 10:57, so not even 12 hours.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. So recovery after that was harder. That one was a harder one. When he was 2 days old, his respiratory rate wasn't settling. So we had to take him to CHKD. And it actually happened to be on my husband's birthday, which was January 23rd. So that was really heavy. And they thought maybe it's just extra fluid on the lungs. But it had nothing to do with the home birth. It was what was just going on inside of Elliot. And again, our midwives are so wonderful. They knew what was going on. Renee talked to our pediatrician, and we took action. And because of that care and that action and that knowledge, we were lovingly, guided to CHKD, which is an amazing hospital. They took incredible care of us once we got settled into a room. The ER experience was a little rough, but once we got settled, Elliot healed. They let me have a room with him, so I got to continue to breastfeed with him. There was all these blessings, even in the really difficult place, and there was a lot of angels. So one of the things I feel just immense gratitude for being in this area, and I assure moms who are first-time moms, and they're like, what if something's really wrong with my baby? I assure them that we have CHKD, and we're so lucky, and it's top notch. And, we have a lot of amazing resources here. So
wonderful. And you had that midwifery care to guide you along. With OB care, you don't even see your doctor until like 6 weeks postpartum.
Right. Exactly. So she came back, 12 hours and 24 hours, and we were texting and on the phone, and I was keeping track. I'd wake up every few hours when he was gonna nurse, and would check his respiratory rate. She taught me how to time it. She gave us the tools and the knowledge and the power to start really listening to our parental intuition, and I feel like that's one of the big things that I would love to speak into about having a home birth. And if moms have that desire to, and if they're able to, I feel like it gives us the ability from the decision to have a home birth, but from when you go into labor forward, they are giving us our power back, or they're holding that container so we can keep our power, and we can start listening to our intuition. And I feel like that gets muddied a lot and pushed to the side when you do go to a hospital. Now, that's not always the case. And I tell mommies, I want mommies to have their babies the way that their heart is calling them to have their babies. If mommies feel safest having their baby at a hospital, you should listen to your heart. You should do what feels good for you. But if mommies want to have a home birth and they are getting all this negative feedback about that and hearing other people's doubts and fears, that's the piece that I want to shift that part of the conversation, and it is really about making a more informed decision, right? Looking
Absolutely.
at all of the options, looking at all the pros, all the risks, and the mother and the father getting to make those choices for their family.
Mm-hmm. And realizing that it's very physical, but it's also very mental as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. When I did prenatal yoga throughout both of my pregnancies, and I also went to chiropractic care. And those are things that I encourage mommies to do if they feel called to go those modalities. But where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so in Hampton Roads, in Virginia Beach, there's an amazing yoga instructor who does prenatal. Have you heard of Molly Robertson?
I haven't.
Okay, so Molly Robertson was my prenatal yoga teacher at Studio Bamboo when I was pregnant with Elliot, but I knew Molly many years prior to that because we have done yoga trainings together. So we've been students together. And so going to her classes, she's incredible. I remember over and over through Elliot's delivery and even the pregnancy, but then the delivery and the recovery after the delivery and going to CHKD, the mantra that she encourages mommies to think about is, I can do hard things. And it seems so simple, but that is your mind trick, right? Like you have to pick those things, those focal points, and it be breath, music, smells, and affirmations, right? For you to walk your mind through this whole experience. So I just will never forget that. I can do hard things. And I pass that on to mommies from Molly.
Yes. And I say that in my yoga classes as well. So that's funny that you say that.
I love it. I love it. There's so much that I think goes into the doubt that women have, right, in their strength and in their power. And for me, I remember having August and thinking, I think I can do anything that comes my way now. If I can have this baby at home with my breath, I feel like I can go do anything that I put my heart and mind into, and it just flipped this switch of confidence for me. And I love for mommies to have that opportunity, when they're having their babies. Yeah. It was
wonderful. That's such a powerful thing. And women play such a divine role in life, bringing life into the world for sure.
right. And the strength that it takes to do that. But even the softening of it, it's one of those things where it's so dualistic, it's like the most amazing, I don't even know, incredible experience, but also like the most terrifying, overwhelming thing all at the same time, and you feel so raw and so vulnerable in childbirth, but you are also at your mightiest at the same time. And so I try to just let mommies know you can feel both, and you can have both of those in the same container and let them both be there. And that was really put into my heart and into my teachings from my breathwork teacher, Gabrielle, is finding that way where dualities can exist in the same space.
That's great. Awesome. Anything else you want to add to your postpartum and breastfeeding story for your second?
So with Elliot, breastfeeding felt a little bit more delayed. I felt like my milk took a little bit longer to come in, but he was still getting colostrum and he was getting a lot of fluids because we were at the hospital. So we did, after we got out of the hospital, I could feel that something was off with the latch. And so we were suggested to go see a lip tie, tongue tie specialist. And we did go to one at DePaul, and he actually had both. They were slight, but after he had those clipped, he nursed right away. And after that, his latch, it was smooth sailing for us after that. I will say, with him, and I think it's just him being a different soul and a different body than the first, he needed a lot more sustenance, and I felt very depleted through breastfeeding with him. So there were times when I felt like I couldn't keep up with that. There were times when I feel like I just couldn't keep up with the supply that he needed. And we did substitute here and there with formula. And then around 10 months, I weaned him. And that was another shift for me. I had never heard about mommies experiencing kind of getting the flu after, or flu-like symptoms after weaning their baby, and it's a part of the body adjusting. So I did experience that with him, and that was also different from the first one. But once we weaned, my body seemed to normalize, and then from there it was just more or less going back and working with nutritionists, which I think is really important, postnatal nutrition, and working with somebody that can guide you with supplements that you need, and just going back and checking on your body. So much of the focus, it's on our body while we're growing the baby. Then once baby's out, focus shifts to baby and the mother's body gets neglected. And so I feel like I really experienced that the second time. And that's another piece that I try to speak into a lot with mommies. And that's part of asking for help. Thank you, Elliot. That's part of really learning to be okay asking for help, because how can we heal our bodies if we aren't pausing from taking care of the babies?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think the postpartum healing phase is really important. There are some postpartum doulas in the area. I don't know if you're familiar with any of them. But
yes, I am a postpartum doula as well. Yes, I work.
That's amazing. I love it. Yeah, I wish I would have had you.
Yes, and I work with a lot of families that have toddlers and a newborn.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the rough one, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So I help with that. Awesome. So we can go on to your website if that's okay with you.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Alrighty. So I'm going to show her website here. And we'll just talk about some things that you offer to moms.
Okay, so the main thing that I offer is massage therapy. I offer prenatal, induction, and postnatal. For the different offerings, I will use different oils depending on if you're coming for prenatal, induction, or postnatal. I really love to incorporate warm, hot stones in all of my sessions if mommies want it. And honestly, I don't think I've ever had a mom turn down the warm stones, no matter where she was at in that process. So I really love using the warmth of the stones to soothe the muscles and help the opening of the tissue. I also offer cupping. The only time I don't do cupping is for postnatal, and the cupping is the decompression therapy. So there are round silicone cups that I place on the back, and I only do the back for mamas as well. And it pulls up the skin and the fascia through the suction, and through that suctioning, it's pulling up blood flow through the tissue. And so sometimes they'll leave a red circle. They kind of look like pepperonis. And then with that, once you relieve that pressure after about 5 minutes, I don't leave them on there very long. Once you take it off, it feels like a pressure valve was relieved with your tissue, essentially. So it's a really great way of stretching the fascia out. It's a nice fascial release without having to do pressure inward. And so mommies really love that, and that helps open up the back a lot. I do also, throughout working with them doing massage therapy, I will guide them with different breath techniques, depending on what mommy's feeling and what stage of pregnancy or postnatal she is.
Great. And I see this is your youngest, right? Aww,
yeah, that was his birthday in January. Yeah, the top right one.
Was he born in the pool?
Yep, that's
great. Yeah, it's beautiful. And this is them now. Oh, such a sweet family.
Thank you so much.
Aww.
Yeah, they're great boys.
Great. Awesome. And you teach yoga as well?
I am certified. I'm not teaching right now. at some point this year, I'm slowly creating space in my schedule for me to be able to offer private yoga sessions with mamas. And I'm working on that piece of the business at the moment. Right now I'm inundated with mamas. I would love for there to be more prenatal massage therapists in the area because there's so many mamas that need help, and I'm pretty booked out. So
Yes,
I've been keeping my focus on them through the modality of massage, and I'm slowly going to start opening space for me to be able to guide them with yoga.
that's great. Massage is a great tool for relaxation and everything like that, for sure.
Yeah.
And I love one-on-one sessions. You can really focus on what they want to focus on. And
Yeah.
yes, awesome. Would you like to talk about essential oils as well?
Sure. I don't do a lot with Young Living anymore. There's a local aromatherapist named Martika, and she owns the aromatherapy shop in Virginia Beach, and it's on the Boulevard and First Colonial. And so at the moment, I really just I talk to mommies about which oils are safe during pregnancy, which ones to stay away from, especially the ones that are not safe post-pregnancy, and one of them being peppermint because it'll dry up your milk supply, or it can. But honestly, the with me being so busy with the massage side, I tend to just give mamas Martika's card and send them down to her. And she has amazing bath bombs that are safe that you can use during pregnancy, and different lotions and stuff that she infuses with oils to help when mommy's bodies are healing. So the main time that I use very specific oils is during the induction massage. And there's 4 oils that I let mommy smell first. So part of what I like to share with mommies is when they come to me, they have a choice in all the things that we do. So if they don't want to use oils, we don't use oils. If they want to use all the oils, we can use all the oils. But these specific essential oils, clary sage being the top one, really can help facilitate uterine activity. So, during pregnancy, I tend to encourage moms to go to Martika and learn which oils can help them when they're feeling stress or anxiety, or if they're starting to feel low and feel depression, because our olfactory sensory is so incredible with helping up with our emotions with whatever we're dealing with. So that's the main thing I like to tell them about.
Awesome. That's another wonderful tool.
Yeah, it is.
So if you're in the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area and you want a massage, Carmen's your girl.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty. Anything else you'd like to add? Any words of wisdom for anyone that's considering a home birth?
I definitely would recommend getting Ina May Gaskins' Guide to Childbirth. I would almost go back and read that before I watched the documentaries that we watched, which were Born in America. And
she also has a documentary as well. And there's another book called Spiritual Midwifery. That's also a great one that has birth stories in it.
I love it. I love it. I feel like, and I even told a mom not too long ago who's having a hospital birth, but wants to have a natural hospital birth. I was telling her, please pick up Ina May Gaskins' book, Guide to Childbirth, because you get to read those other birth stories and how mommies navigated, having an intervention-free delivery, or drug-free. And even if you aren't considering having a home birth or wanting a home birth, but I would start with lean into the inspiration, lean into the stories of the faith and not the fear. And if you do share that you're going to have a home birth or you're considering it, be mindful of who you share that with until you've settled on that decision.
Yes.
People will speak right out of love, but it's also a projection, and to not let those voices take over what their heart really wants.
Yes, to keep the positive energy around you and block off the negative that you can. That's possible.
Right. And also, wherever you are, reach out and find your local home birth support group. They're out there, and if you can't find one in your area, reach out to another one and just keep asking for connections and resources. I really believe in the power of community. And I am so glad our hearts led us back to Hampton Roads so that I could have Elliot here and experience how incredible the home birth community is here.
Awesome. I think the key to having a positive pregnancy and labor and everything like that is having that support for sure, but also having that space where you feel comfortable, confident, and safe as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm sure will inspire and empower many women.
I hope so. I really do. Thank you so much. This was an honor to get to share about my babies, August and Elliot. And ultimately, I feel like having them and even having them at home really, it guides me on a daily basis to be able to show up for my clients even better, and it's definitely the fuel behind what I feel like is my purpose in this life, which is to create safe space and to encourage mommies to find their safe places while they're becoming mamas.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again. I enjoyed talking with you.
All right. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you, Rachel.
Nice to meet you too. Okay, bye. Alrighty, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll link all the resources that we talked about below, including Carmen's website, theblissfulmama.biz. And comment below if you want any suggestions, either in the Virginia Beach or the Chesterfield area of Virginia. We can give you good suggestions on pelvic floor therapy, and we talked about so many great resources. You are not alone. So check the link below. We have lots of resources there, as well as my social medias, so you can follow on my journey and get connected with me. So thank you so much for listening. I hope I see you guys again. Bye.